Welcome to Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets, where world-renowned author, speaker, and holistic veterinarian Dr. Judy Morgan answers your questions and offers healthy options for raising your pets in a more holistic manner. Not sure which vaccinations should be given or how often? Not sure what to use for flea, tick, and heartworm prevention? Join Dr. Judy now as she interviews the top experts and showcases the latest products that will help your pets stay naturally healthy.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets, and I'm your host, Dr. Judy. You can hear my show every Monday and Tuesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern by going to dreamvision7radio.com. All shows are archived. Any shows that you've missed in the past you can find on the Naturally Healthy Pets show page. So today I thought we would turn the tables a little bit, and instead of me interviewing someone else, I have a guest who has been studying building businesses and how entrepreneurs get started, how they build their businesses, and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And so our guest today is actually going to interview me. And our guest is an entrepreneur herself, and that guest is my daughter, Gwendolyn Campbell. Gwen is actually an engineer, a industrial and systems engineer. Is that what you are, Gwen?
Yeah, there you go.
I paid for the degree. I don't know what it is. And also a packaging engineer. And so first, before you start interviewing me, what I'd like you to do is just tell people a little bit about your story, because you do have a very cool story, Gwen. I mean, nobody does what you did. And so just give them a little bit of background about what you did after graduation and what you're doing now and how that's going.
Sure. So as most people probably know, both my parents are veterinarians, so I thought for the longest time that I was going to be a veterinarian myself, take over the family business. Unfortunately, that path wasn't the right path for me, so I chose engineering instead. And then my senior year of college, I actually had a job offer on Wall Street for the big bucks. And I decided to deny that and pick up and move to a city that I had never actually even visited before, Raleigh, North Carolina. And I wanted to dive headfirst in the North Carolina startup scene and be really impactful with my work. So I ended up getting the first job. I was the first employee hired at a startup company off a cold call to the CEO. That was in 2015, and I've been there ever since. So I was the first hire. Now we're up to about 10 people, 2 products, and we are expanding rapidly. So not the traditional track.
Not the traditional track at all. So basically Gwen, packed what she could fit from her college house that she rented into her car, which was just a little Honda CR-V, so it wasn't a lot of stuff, 2 cats and a guinea pig, and hit the road and, lived out of a suitcase in an apartment with no furniture for a while. And so tell everybody about the product that you have helped develop and market, and, what that product is for and how it's doing.
Yeah, so I saw the website back in 2015 when I decided to reach out to the CEO, and he had a Kickstarter campaign for this little wearable bracelet that would vibrate to remind students to stay on task. And he's a school psychologist. It was developed to help kids primarily with ADHD and on the autism spectrum be able to focus better in class. So I knew that was a really great cause, and I could work every day on a project that was helping improve the lives of others, of children with special needs in these families. So I came on board at the tail end of the development of that first product. I helped finalize the engineering and go into mass production and sell to customers. And then I'm actually one of the inventors for our second product, which is called Revibe Connect. And it's the same premise, but we added an app and some data capabilities to it, so that way parents and teachers can actually see how the children are focusing throughout the day, their activity levels, and it's still proactively reminding them and helping them stay on task. So the whole idea is helping, parents, teachers, and these kids that are struggling to stay on task to help them focus better in the classroom.
And as far as I know, it's going well, yes?
Yeah, it's going amazing. We've had great success. We just launched the second product a few months ago, and it's selling like hotcakes. So we're super happy about that.
That's awesome, and helping just a ton of kids. So it's being well received because it's a really good product. So the company is Revibe. What's the website for it?
It's revibetech.com. It's REVIBE.
RevibeTech.com. So,
Yep.
I think that there's an awful lot of people out there that have, either themselves or children who have problems focusing, staying on task. There's so many children who are, I think more and more that are being diagnosed on the ADHD or autism spectrum. So, I think this product can be incredibly helpful. And, Gwen just had this desire to give back and to help and not just be another cog in the big Wall Street wheel. So I applaud anyone who sees a need and wants to fill that niche and really kind of give back to society. And certainly, starting out on the entrepreneurial scale, Gwen gave up the big bucks to go do this. Hopefully it'll all pay off in the long run, but certainly in the short term, you starve a little bit.
Yeah, it was a humble beginning, but you know what they say about joining on the ground floor. It's a higher risk, but a higher reward, and honestly, it's been a great experience both professionally and getting to help kids. We really can't ask for more in a day-to-day job, so can't complain.
That is true. Okay, so we're going to turn the tables now, and Gwen has started a new business blog. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll let you take over the reins here.
Yeah, so the motivation behind starting my blog was I get a lot of questions about what is it like being a part of a startup company, what is it like to build up a business or invent a product. I get those questions all the time, so I wanted to provide just free content for other people to read and learn a little bit more about the experience, but I didn't want to just repeat my story over and over again because I don't think that's nearly as impactful as sharing the stories of others from diverse backgrounds. So I started this blog where each week we feature a different entrepreneur, and they're very diverse racially, ages, education levels. I try to make them as different as possible, so that way when we highlight a new entrepreneur, it's going to inspire and impact someone that will see it and think, wow, this is really awesome. I want to be just like them and learn a little bit more about how they did it. So one of my features, of course, is the famous Dr. Judy Morgan for building up the veterinary businesses, not just your brick-and-mortar practices, but you started your online business, and you also became an author, which I thought was a really cool story. So that was my motivation behind the blog in general, and specifically to interview you. I think you have a really cool story that people could learn from, and I think your clients as well would appreciate hearing your story because it's very motivational, and it shows that you really worked hard to get to where you are, and nothing was given to you, which I think is really impactful for people to see from you.
Yeah, nothing was handed over. That's for darn sure. So where do you want to start?
So let's just start a little bit with, the very beginning, kind of what inspired you to be a veterinarian and to pursue that degree?
So I was, when I was a small child, we had, a house dog, and then my dad had a hunting dog that lived outside more than inside. And, they were dogs, but we weren't really like totally dog people. Our dogs never went to the veterinarian. Veterinarians for me just kind of didn't even exist. The only times we went were for like bad things. So, but when I was in 8th grade, I had started riding horses, and I had a show pony. And he was very lame, and he had gotten to the point where he couldn't be ridden anymore, and he needed our equine veterinarian, who was a family friend, said, well, we could do a neurectomy, which basically was remove part of the nerves in his front feet so that they would be kind of numb, and it might just give him enough comfort level that he would be able to be turned out in the field and live out the rest of his life, not being rideable, but just being comfortable and being out with the other ponies and, being a pasture sped. And so my parents were nice enough to fork over the money for it. I think we paid, I don't know, $600 or $900, but that was back in, oh my gosh, the early 70s. And so it was a lot of money at the time, but I got to help with the surgery. So we did it right in the field at the farm, and put the pony under anesthesia, and I got to help hand over instruments, and then I was taught how to do the bandaging and the aftercare. And I swear that veterinarian, I idolized her. I would kiss the ground she walked on, and I got to help her all summer when clients would bring horses to the farm, or she'd be treating other horses, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I was 12 maybe at the time. And from that minute on, I was just very focused. And frankly, I wanted to be an equine veterinarian. I wanted to work on horses. And I did not change that focus until halfway through senior year of vet school. And then I went to small animal.
Yeah, it's interesting that your passion started out, the reason you became a veterinarian is equine, and then you ended up switching ultimately to opening 2 small animal practices. And tell us a little bit more about your experience through school. I mean, it's pretty obvious from your track record that you're a very good student. You're the valedictorian of your high school. You were very successful in vet school. Just give your followers a little bit of a taste of what it was like going through that education for you.
So it's called crazy. And so you see the doctor shows on TV, and I think now on cable there's a couple of shows where they're actually following vet students. I think there's one with Cornell vet students. There was one with Penn vet students for a while. But literally it is around the clock learning. Class would be, the first couple of years was class 9 to 5, and then you'd go get a meal and then go back to school and be in the labs, with the microscopes and the dissection and whatever, studying until all hours of the night. And it was not a 5-day-a-week thing; it was a 7-day-a-week thing. And then when we got into junior year, we got into clinics. So you would be in the clinics at 5 o'clock in the morning doing your treatments, then be in class all day, doing rounds, and then doing your evening treatments. And I didn't have much money. I was paying my own way through veterinary school. So I lived in the small animal clinic in my junior year and took emergency calls overnight. So every 6th night, I would be up all night in the emergency room helping deal with emergency patients and helping the interns and residents in emergency. And then senior year, there was no summer break between semesters. You go all year round. And then senior year, I moved into the large animal clinic, and there were only 2 of us. So that meant that every other night I was up all night in the ER doing colic surgeries on horses, or doing intake for sick cows and sheep and pigs and whatever came in all night long, and doing treatments all night. And twice during the year, each senior student takes 6 weeks and goes out to work at clinics. So 12 weeks out of that senior year, each of us lived in that clinic by ourselves. So for 12 weeks out of the year, I was on call every single night and still had to do all of my daytime stuff. But it gave me a free place to live so that I could, frankly, pay my bills. And so it was pretty stressful, but the education was unbeatable. I learned so much more by doing that. So for me, it was a great experience. I would never want to do it again.
That sounds absolutely exhausting. I feel like it's probably a little bit easier in your 20s, but that still doesn't really sound like an easy path at all.
No, and it was definitely easier then. And, I kept that same crazy work ethic after your brother was born in 1989. I lost my job over the whole pregnancy thing. That was, before the time when women actually had rights. But anyway, this is another long story. But because I didn't have a job after he was born and I needed money, I started doing basically substitute vet. I was a relief veterinarian. So when somebody would be on vacation or they needed an extra hand because one of their doctors was out on maternity leave or whatever, I would go in and be the substitute vet. And I didn't just work 40 hours a week when I did that. I would work all day, Monday through Saturday in clinics, and then at least 2 nights a week I went and worked at an emergency service overnight. When I was pregnant